Imagine building the world's biggest mall and then watching people stop showing up. Dubai Mall was supposed to be untouchable. Over 1,200 stores, an indoor ice rink, a real aquarium sitting inside a shopping center holding 10 million liters of water, and more than 105 million visitors in a single year. It wasn't just a mall, it was a statement. Proof that Dubai could build anything and the world would come running. For years, that's exactly what happened. The place was always loud, always packed, always moving. You couldn't walk through it without bumping into someone. Queues outside luxury stores. Restaurants booked weeks in advance. A constant flood of people from every corner of the planet, all spending money like the good times would never end. But in 2025, something quietly broke. Walk into Dubai Mall today, and it doesn't feel the way it used to. The corridors are wider, not because anything changed in the building, but because fewer people are filling them. Luxury storefronts that once had lines stretching out the door now have staff standing inside with nothing to do. Entire sections feel still in a way that's hard to explain until you've felt it. And the numbers back up what your gut already tells you. Over just 18 months, Dubai Mall's revenue dropped by roughly 30%. In 1 year alone, it fell 18%, then dropped another 12% in the first half of 2025. Daily visitor numbers slipped from around 200,000 to closer to 140,000 on weekdays. And the people who do still show up are spending less. The average visitor used to spend around $115 per trip. Now that number sits at about $76. That's a 33% drop in spending per person, and when you multiply that across millions of visits, the damage adds up fast. So what actually happened? Because this didn't come out of nowhere. The first thing that changed was the disappearance of the big spenders. Chinese tourists were once the lifeblood of Dubai's luxury retail scene. They weren't casual shoppers browsing for souvenirs. These were high-spending visitors dropping anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 in a single trip, buying watches, designer fashion, and jewelry at a pace that kept entire store categories alive. At their peak, they accounted for 22% of all luxury spending in Dubai. Then China's economy slowed down sharply. Youth unemployment climbed. The real estate sector back home went into freefall, wiping out wealth and consumer confidence at the same time. Chinese travel to Dubai collapsed by nearly 50%. That's not a rounding error. That's half of an enormous customer base simply vanishing, and the gap they left behind is enormous. At the same time, the way people shop fundamentally changed. Dubai Mall's power used to come partly from exclusivity. If you wanted access to certain luxury brands in this region, you had to physically walk into that building and buy them there. There was no shortcut. But that era is over. Platforms like Noon, Amazon Way, and international luxury e-commerce sites now deliver the same products to your front door, often faster and sometimes cheaper, without requiring you to spend 2 hours navigating a 5 million square foot building. Residents under the age of 35 have cut their in-store luxury purchases by 29%. That doesn't mean younger people stopped spending. It means they stopped coming in. The product is the same. The experience just moved somewhere more convenient, and once that shift happens, it's almost impossible to reverse. Then there's competition, which grew much faster than anyone anticipated. Dubai Mall spent years operating with almost no real rivals. It was in a category of its own. But that changed. Mall of the Emirates went through serious upgrades, improving its luxury offering and making itself feel fresher. Dubai Hills Mall opened in 2022 and immediately attracted younger residents who preferred somewhere closer to home. City Walk built a reputation as a lifestyle destination with its open-air design and a crowd that felt more curated. These weren't just new buildings, they were new habits forming in real time, pulling footfall away from a single dominant destination and spreading it across a city that kept growing. And the competition didn't stop at Dubai's borders. Saudi Arabia, which historically sent around 20% of Dubai's tourist base across the border to shop, has been aggressively building its own entertainment and retail infrastructure. When a country starts keeping its own spending at home, the ripple effects reach every business that relied on that flow of visitors. Dubai felt it. Currency didn't help either. The way dirham is pegged to the US dollar, which means when the dollar strengthens, Dubai gets more expensive for everyone coming in from outside. Between 2022 and 2025, that's exactly what happened. A product that felt competitively priced in 2022 became noticeably more expensive by 2025 for tourists arriving from Europe, Southeast Asia, or anywhere else where the local currency weakened against the dollar. The price advantage that once made Dubai a global shopping destination quietly evaporated. And when the financial incentive to shop somewhere disappears, so do the shoppers. But underneath all of these economic factors sits something harder to measure and more important than any of them. People changed, not just where they shop or how much they spend, but what they actually want from a trip. A decade ago, spending a full afternoon inside a massive shopping mall felt like an event. Today's traveler, especially someone under 40, has a completely different agenda. They want a desert safari. They want a rooftop experience with a view of the skyline. They want something that feels alive and specific to the place they traveled to. Shopping is fine as a side activity, but it's no longer the centerpiece. This shift isn't temporary, and it isn't something Dubai Mall can advertise its way out of. It's a generational change in what travel is supposed to feel like. All of this shows up clearly inside the mall itself. About 11% of the retail space, which works out to more than 130 storefronts, is currently empty or stuck in lease renegotiations. Big names that once defined the place are pulling back. Bloomingdale's reduced its footprint. Level Shoes, which was considered a flagship destination, cut around 30% of its staff. Some brands chose not to renew their leases at all and left quietly, without press releases or announcements. Luxury fashion sales are down around 45%. Watches and jewelry dropped by roughly 38%. Even food and beverage, normally the most resilient category because people always need to eat, fell by about 22%. And while revenue falls, the costs don't. Slow it down, and the financial pressure builds quickly, because the fixed costs don't shrink just because the crowds did. Amar Properties, the company behind Dubai Mall, is carrying over $7 billion in debt. The business overall remains stable, but when your single biggest revenue-generating asset starts underperforming, everything connected to it feels the strain. Debt that seemed manageable during peak years becomes a heavier weight when the numbers turn. Here's where this story becomes bigger than one building. Dubai Mall isn't finished. It's not shutting down, and no one serious is suggesting it will. But the model it was built on, the belief that people would permanently prioritize shopping as a major reason to travel, is being tested in a way it never has been before. The mall was designed around the idea that physical retail would always be dominant, that tourists would always need a destination, and that scale alone would be enough to stay relevant. None of those assumptions hold the same way they once did. The only real path forward is a shift in purpose. From a place you visit to buy things to a place you visit because you can't get that experience anywhere else. Not products, not brands available online with next-day delivery. Actual experiences, memories, things that justify leaving the house and traveling across the city or across the world. Some malls are figuring this out. Many aren't. The ones that adapt will survive in some form. The ones that don't will slowly hollow out, keeping the lights on but losing the energy that made them worth visiting in the first place. Dubai Mall still has real advantages: location, scale, infrastructure, a direct connection to the Burj Khalifa, and global name recognition that most retail destinations will never achieve. But advantages only matter if you use them to build something people actually want. And right now, the question of what people want is changing faster than the building can keep up. So if you've been to Dubai or you're planning to go, would Dubai Mall still make your list? Or would you spend your time doing something else? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more videos like this one, subscribe, because the way the world's biggest systems are changing is a story worth following closely.